The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home, the windshield wipers working furiously to keep up. I'm Alistair, 43, an IT specialist in Seattle, and tonight felt like a scene from a movie the kind where everything falls apart. I had left the office late, troubleshooting a server issue that threatened to crash the entire system. My head was pounding, and all I wanted was to get home to a hot meal and the comforting presence of my wife, Genevieve. We had been married for 15 years. Genevieve was a vibrant, artistic soul who ran a small boutique downtown, selling handcrafted jewelry and artwork. I always admired her passion and creativity. It was a stark contrast to my own structured, logical world. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We had built a comfortable existence, a cozy home filled with laughter, shared dreams, and two cats, aptly named Bit and Bite. Or so I thought. The first sign that something was amiss had been subtle, almost imperceptible. Genevieve started spending more time at the boutique, often staying late to catch up on inventory or work on a new display. I didn't think much of it at first. Running a small business is hard work. But then came the hushed phone calls, the way she would quickly end a conversation when I entered the room, her explanations vague and dismissive. "Just a client," she'd say, her eyes darting away. I tried to shake off my unease. Maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe I was working too hard and letting my anxieties get the better of me. But the feeling persisted, a knot tightening in my stomach with each passing day. One evening, I decided to surprise Genevieve at the boutique. I brought her a bouquet of her favorite lilies and a thermos of hot chocolate. As I approached the shop, I noticed the lights were on, even though it was well past closing time. I peered through the window, and what I saw shattered my world. Genevieve was there, all right, but she wasn't alone. She was in the arms of a man I had never seen before. They were locked in a passionate embrace, their bodies pressed close and their lips moving urgently. The lilies slipped from my grasp, the thermos clattering to the ground. The sound seemed deafening in the quiet street. I stood there, frozen, my mind unable to process what I was seeing. It felt like a punch to the gut, a searing pain that spread through my entire body. I wanted to scream, to lash out, to break the window and confront them both. But I couldn't move. I was paralyzed by shock and disbelief. After what felt like an eternity, I turned and walked away, the rain washing over my face, mingling with the tears I couldn't hold back. I drove aimlessly for hours, the city lights blurring into streaks of color. I couldn't go home. Not yet. I needed time to process what I had seen, to make sense of the betrayal that had just ripped through my life. I ended up at a small, dingy bar on the outskirts of town, nursing a whiskey and trying to numb the pain. "Rough night?" the bartender asked, his eyes filled with a knowing sympathy. I just nodded, unable to speak. When I finally returned home, it was late. The house was dark and silent. I crept into the bedroom where Genevieve was sleeping soundly. I watched her for a long time, my heart aching with a mix of love and anger. How could she do this to me? How could she betray our vows, our life together? I wanted to wake her up, to demand an explanation, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I crawled into bed beside her, the space between us feeling like a vast, unbridgeable chasm. The next morning, I woke up before Genevieve. I went downstairs and made coffee, my hands shaking. When she came down, she greeted me with a smile as if nothing was wrong. "Morning, darling," she said, kissing me on the cheek. "Sleep well." I stared at her, my face a mask of cold fury. "Don't you dare pretend everything is normal," I said, my voice trembling. I know. Her eyes widened and her smile faltered. "You know," she whispered, "I saw you, Genevieve, last night at the boutique with him." The color drained from her face and she sank into a chair, her body trembling. "Alistair, who is he?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "What's his name? How long has this been going on?" She hesitated for a moment, then closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "His name is Theron," she said, her voice barely audible. "He's a sculptor. He's been helping me with a new art installation." "And how long has he been helping you, Genevieve?" I asked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "A few months," she admitted, her eyes filled with tears. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "You didn't mean for it to go this far?" I repeated, incredulous. "You were kissing him, Genevieve. You were practically undressing him in the middle of your shop. How much further did you plan on taking it?" She started to cry, her body racked with sobs. "I'm so sorry, Alistair," she said, her voice muffled by her hands. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt me, Genevieve, I said, my voice breaking. You broke my heart, you destroyed our marriage. How can I ever trust you again? She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. Please, Alistair, she begged. Give me another chance. I promise it won't happen again. I'll do anything to make it up to you. I stared at her, my mind racing. Could I forgive her? Could I move past this betrayal and rebuild our life together? A part of me wanted to believe her, to cling to the hope that we could salvage something from the wreckage of our marriage. But another part of me knew that things would never be the same. The trust was gone, shattered into a million pieces. The image of her in Theron's arms was burned into my memory, a constant reminder of her infidelity. I need time, Genevieve, I said, my voice weary. I need time to think. I need time to figure out what I want to do. I walked out of the house, leaving her alone with her tears and her guilt. I spent the next few days in a hotel trying to sort through my emotions. I talked to friends, to family, to a therapist. Everyone had an opinion, but ultimately the decision was mine. Could I forgive Genevieve? Could I live with the knowledge of her betrayal? The answer, I realized, was no. The damage was too deep, the wound too raw. I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and deceit. I returned home and told Genevieve my decision. She was devastated, pleading with me to reconsider, but my mind was made up. We agreed to separate, to divide our assets, to start the process of divorce. It was a painful and emotional process, filled with anger, resentment, and regret. But it was also necessary. We couldn't stay together, not after what had happened. As I started packing my belongings, I found a small velvet box hidden in the back of Genevieve's closet. I opened it, and inside was a ring, a beautiful diamond solitaire, the kind I had always dreamed of giving her. There was a note attached, written in Genevieve's handwriting. For our 20th anniversary, to my beloved Alistair, with all my love. The sight of the ring and the note brought tears to my eyes. It was a reminder of the love we had once shared, of the dreams we had once held. But it was also a reminder of what we had lost, of the betrayal that had destroyed our future. I closed the box and placed it on the dresser, a silent farewell to the woman I had once loved. The divorce was finalized a few months later. We sold the house and went our separate ways. I moved into a small apartment downtown, closer to my office. I threw myself into my work, finding solace in the logic and order of the digital world. I started taking weekend trips, exploring the Pacific Northwest and rediscovering my love of photography. Genevieve, I heard through mutual friends, had moved to Portland and was focusing on her art. She and Theron were still together, or at least they were for a while. I tried not to think about her, to let go of the anger and resentment that had consumed me for so long. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was necessary for my own healing. One day, about a year after the divorce, I received a package in the mail. It was from Genevieve. Inside was the velvet box containing the diamond ring and a letter. Alistair, she wrote, I know this doesn't excuse what I did, but I wanted you to have this. It was meant for you and you deserve it. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you. I hope one day you can forgive me. Genevieve. I held the ring in my hand, my heart aching with a mix of sadness and forgiveness. I knew that I would never forget Genevieve, but I also knew that I had to move on. I had to create a new life for myself, one filled with love, trust, and happiness. I decided to sell the ring and use the money to travel. I wanted to see the world, to experience new cultures, to meet new people. I wanted to find myself again, to rediscover the joy and passion that had been lost in the darkness of betrayal. My first destination was Iceland. I had always been fascinated by the country's dramatic landscapes, its volcanoes, glaciers, and geysers. I spent weeks exploring the island, hiking through rugged terrain and photographing the stunning scenery. It was a transformative experience, a journey of healing and self-discovery. One evening, as I was sitting in a small cafe in Reykjavik, I met a woman named Ingrid. She was a local artist, a kindred spirit who shared my love of photography and adventure. We spent hours talking, sharing our stories, and laughing together. There was an instant connection between us, a sense of understanding and acceptance that I had never experienced before. Over the next few months, Ingrid and I traveled together, exploring different parts of the world. We visited the ancient ruins of Rome, the bustling markets of Marrakesh, and the serene temples of Kyoto. With each new adventure, our bond grew stronger. I found myself falling in love again, this time with a woman who valued honesty, respect, and trust. 2 years later, Ingrid and I were married in a small ceremony on a black sand beach in Iceland. It was a beautiful and simple celebration, surrounded by our closest friends and family. As I looked into Ingrid's eyes, I knew that I had finally found true happiness. The pain of the past had faded, replaced by a sense of peace and gratitude. I had survived the betrayal, healed my broken heart, and found love again. Genevieve's betrayal had been a devastating experience, but it had also been a catalyst for growth and change. It had taught me the importance of trust, the fragility of relationships, and the resilience of the human spirit. I had learned that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a brighter future. And as I stood there on that black sand beach, with the woman I loved by my side, I knew that my future was brighter than I could have ever imagined. Sometimes, the greatest tragedies can lead to the most unexpected blessings, and that is a lesson I will carry with me for the rest of my life. I never saw Genevieve again, but I often wondered about her. I hoped that she had found happiness, that she had learned from her mistakes, and that she had found a way to forgive herself. I knew that forgiving her was the only way for me to truly move on, to let go of the past and embrace the future. And so I forgave her, not for her sake but for mine, because holding on to anger and resentment only poisons the soul, and I wanted to live a life filled with love, joy, and peace. And that is exactly what I did. Years passed, filled with laughter, adventures, and the quiet contentment of a life well lived. Ingrid and I built a beautiful home together, a sanctuary filled with art, music, and the warmth of our love. We traveled the world, capturing its beauty through our lenses and sharing our stories with others. We supported each other's dreams, celebrated each other's successes, and comforted each other through life's challenges. And as I looked back on my life, I realized that even though Genevieve's betrayal had been a painful chapter, it had ultimately led me to where I was meant to be. It had led me to Ingrid, to a life filled with love, trust, and happiness, and for that I was eternally grateful. Life has a funny way of working out, doesn't it? Sometimes, the things that seem like the end of the world turn out to be the beginning of something beautiful. You just have to be open to the possibilities, to have faith in yourself, and to never give up on love. And remember, forgiveness is not about condoning the actions of others, but about freeing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. It's about choosing to move on, to heal, and to create a life filled with joy and peace. So if you're going through a difficult time, remember that you are not alone. There is always hope, and there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Just keep going, keep believing, and keep loving. And one day, you will find your way to happiness just as I did. The rain stopped and a sliver of sunlight peeked through the clouds. It was a new day, a new beginning, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms. I hope my story offers some solace and strength to anyone going through a similar ordeal. Remember, you are stronger than you think, and you are worthy of love and happiness. Never settle for anything less. Take care, and may your journey be filled with healing and hope.